afternoon, everyone. Next up, we have a very engaging speaker. Menaka Raman is the author of numerous books for children, including Gappu Can't Dance and How to Reach Mars and Other Impossible Things. Her book, Loki Takes Guard, won the Valley of Words Award for writing for young adults. Her short stories have appeared in anthologies published by Penguin, Speaking Tiger, and Scholastic India. She has written on parenting and children's books for some of India's leading publications. Today, in her session, Menaka Raman will be talking about her newest book, How to Reach Mars and Other Impossible Things. In the book, a little girl's dream about envisioning women as scientists comes true thanks to her encounter with a scientist from ISRO. Follow along the author's path as she takes you down the road to the making of the book.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks so much for coming for this session. Hello everyone over here. Hi. You all had lunch? Yes? Is anyone feeling a little sleepy after lunch? Yeah, no? The weather's warm and you've had like something really nice to eat and you want to take a little nap. That's why you're sitting next to the fan. That is a very smart thing to do. Well done. Yes, so I write books for children and I have just come out with this book which is called How to Reach Mars and Other Impossible Things. Yeah? How many of you watched Chandrayaan 3 take off and land? How many of you here? Yeah? How did it make you feel watching the launch and then the landing? How did you all feel? You felt very good. Anyone else? Soft landing. Very proud about India. Yeah? Anyone else? Anyone feel nervous when they were watching the landing? What were you nervous about? Okay, yeah, so there was a little worry that, and especially as it was getting closer and closer and closer to the surface of the moon, yeah? I know, and those kind of things can happen, right? I mean, who remembers Chandrayaan 2? Failed, right? So maybe there was a little bit of that leftover nervousness in us. Yeah, it crashed. Was anyone here worried Chandrayaan 3 might crash? I was a little worried. I mean, I was hoping it wouldn't, but I was feeling a little worried as it got closer and closer. But do you know what my favorite part of the whole Chandrayaan landing was? Does anyone know? So there was this one person on TV, and there was a gentleman and a lady who was doing the commentary, right? And the gentleman kept saying, "Lagbag, lagbag." Who remembers that? Does anyone here remember? He kept saying lagbag, lagbag. And I thought it was such a great word. So I think in honor of Chandrayaan 3 and for Aditya, shall we all together say lagbag, lagbag? Yeah, on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Yes, okay, so I think now we can start this session. So this session is called Small and Big Questions. Okay, but before I get into this and the writing of this book and how it happened, a few years ago, before maybe about 2-3 years ago, I published another book called Topi Rockets from Tumba. And that book was about how India, long before, everyone knows what ISRO is, right? You all know what ISRO is? Yeah? So long before Indian Space Research Organization, right? So even before we had ISRO, India launched its very first rocket. No, it was a sounding rocket. It didn't have all these cool fancy names. Now we have Chandrayaan, Aditya, Mangalyaan. That was just Pavam. It had no name. They just called it sounding rocket number 1, I guess. But they launched their very first rocket from a place called Tumba. Does anyone know where Tumba is? Anyone here from Kerala? Yes? Anyone has heard of Trivandrum? Yes. So it's the capital. Your father belongs to Trivandrum. Let's give a big round of applause for Trivandrum. Yeah, excellent. So not very far away from Trivandrum is a small fishing village. It is a fishing village called Tumba. And way back in 1963, okay, which is a really long time ago, way back in 1963, has anyone heard of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai? Anyone here? Yes? Well, yes, I suppose we could say that. He is the father of Indian space research. That is what we call him. So Vikram Sarabhai and a team of scientists all set up camp in Tumba. There was a reason. They could only launch this rocket from Tumba. Do you want to put your hand down? We'll have lots of time for questions at the end. Okay? Okay. At the end, yeah? Promise everyone can get a chance to say and ask questions at the end. So Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and this big group of scientists decided to go and set up in Tumba to launch this rocket. And I wrote a book all about how they made that happen. And while I was researching that book, I had this question, right? Because there was this one page in that book where the artist wanted to draw all these buses and scientists coming out of the buses and wandering around Tumba. And I wanted to know, were there any women scientists in 1963? But I didn't know if in 1963 there had been women who worked on this project. So now I had this question, and I tried very hard to find the answers for it. And where do you think I went and looked for answers? Google, okay. What else? So do you think if I wanted to know were there women scientists in 1963 in Tumba, is that a small question or a big question? It's a big question, right? So, and I was really curious to know. So I looked online. I did ask Google, because that's usually the first thing I do is I'm like, you know, Google knows pretty much everything. Let me ask Google. And then Google didn't know. ChatGPT. You know, when I wrote that book, ChatGPT was not as famous as it is now, unfortunately, but that is a great answer. So I asked Google, then I tried to look it up in books, and then Twitter, now called X, we all know Twitter/X now, so then I went on X, which was called Twitter then, and I put out a tweet and I said, hey, can anyone answer this question for me? And the miraculous thing is someone did. And they told me, you know what, my father worked in Tumba at that time as a scientist, and unfortunately, there were no women working on that very first rocket launch, which I thought was quite, kind of sucked. But many years later, when we did launch Mangalyaan, and of course now when we launch Chandrayaan 3, there have been so many women scientists who have joined ISRO and who work at ISRO, and have made so many of the amazing space missions that we've launched a possibility. I promise to let you ask something or say something at the end. Is that okay? Yes? All right, so we'll get to everyone's questions, statements, ideas, thoughts, opinions, I promise, at the end of this. Okay, so I think a big part, okay, so I wrote that book a couple of years ago, and then last year I started to research this book, How to Reach Mars and Other Impossible Things. And the thing about writing is, as much as it is about sitting at a table and writing, I think you also have to ask a lot of questions, big and small questions. Can we? So who here likes asking questions? I see only very few adults like asking questions, because the problem is most adults think they already know all the answers. That's why. Yeah. So yes, all of you like to ask questions. What kind of questions do you like to ask? What kind of questions do you like to ask? Quickly. Any one question you love asking? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? What else? What else do you like asking? Why? What do you like asking? What kind of questions? How? These are all kinds of questions, but I want to know what is your favorite to ask. When are we going to do this? What is your favorite? Oh my God, why is my sister so annoying? Nobody knows. Even your sister doesn't know that, unfortunately. What do you like asking? Why? Yeah, these are all great questions, right? I really like asking, is there dessert? That is my favorite question. What is your favorite question to ask? Why we shouldn't eat junk? Okay, I'm not going to answer any of these questions. I am just here to collect questions that people... What do you like asking? When will you finish your work? Who are you asking this question to? To your dad, okay. If he's looking at his phone, he's not doing work. I want you to know that. Yes. What is your favorite question? And then you go on and on and on till they get stuck and can't answer, right? Anyone in the audience, favorite kind of question to ask? Yes.
Can I have your phone?
Oh, and what is the number one answer you get to that question?
No.
Ah, very good. Okay. What are the, anyone else? Anyone else? Yeah, what is your favorite question to ask?
What do you want to eat?
What do you want to eat? All children answer now together. When your parents ask you, what do you want to eat? What is the correct answer? Ah, you don't like the answer, but you have to ask the question. What is your favorite question to ask? Okay, wait.
How and why did this happen?
How and why did this happen? Oh my gosh, these are very, very big questions. Okay, last question I'm going to take in, one from each of you. What is your favorite question? Why are you annoying? What is your favorite question to ask? Why can't you go in? Play in the grass, you can. If you're asking me, you're more than welcome to go and play in the grass. So, okay, last question. Why does this always happen to me? Big existential questions as well, right? Yes, and I can see both her parents are like, shh, no, you can't ask that question, okay? I'll keep asking questions throughout, promise, okay? So, if you like asking questions, usually who do we go and ask questions to? Parents, teachers, mobile. Thing about the mobile is at least you get an answer. Alexa, Chat GPT. Parents of this child, your daughter is interesting things with artificial intelligence. I want you to know around the world, right? So if you like asking questions, the grown in your life might not always appreciate those questions, right? Like if you go and ask your mother something, what will your mother say? Go and ask your. And if you go and ask your father will say. These grown-ups have it all figured out, right? So, they're playing games with you, absolutely. All right? So, if you like asking questions, unfortunately, you might have to ask grown-ups, yes. When will we shift to another planet? I don't know if your parents can, or the teachers can answer that. So, all these questions, you are stuck asking grown-ups, teachers, parents, maybe an elder brother or sister, or a cousin, or a friend, right? But if you like asking questions, as frustrating as it may be for the people in your life, I want you all to know that that is the best way to get through life, is to keep asking questions. Can we go to the next slide? All right. So now, here someone had already started. What are the 6 kinds of questions? All right. Yes, in the back. Give me one. Why? Okay. Who have I not asked? You. Give me another one. How? All right. Who else? Who else? Yes. What? Why? Did someone say how? Huh? Who? Okay, that's 4. When? Where? Okay. Have we left out any questions? Where? So, okay, wait. So, what, how, why, where, when, who, correct? And then you're like, why not? Can't I? Those are all like subsets. But these are the 6 main kinds of big questions, right? All right, and where do we look for answers? Let's think about this a little more. Now, I'm going to talk about this with respect to writing. Yeah, so we've all said Google, Chat GPT, grown-ups, okay, Alexa, books. Let's give a big round of applause. This is the first time someone has said books today. Yes, absolutely. Books. Chrome. Homework. Homework is asking you questions, no, and wants you to write down the answers to it. If you write back questions in your homework, you are a genius. And that, I think that also deserves a round of applause. Huh? Okay, Google. YouTube. Okay. Netflix. Amazon Prime. Science videos. Okay, so today there are so many places that you can look for answers. But how do you know that the answer you're getting from YouTube, Google, Netflix? Okay, how do you know it's the right answer? How do you know that's the correct answer? Yes. Okay. Right. So when you're looking online for an answer, you can get an answer, but the first answer you get might not be the right answer, right? Or if you want to check that's the right answer, then you need to look in a couple of other places before you can say yes with certainty, this is the correct answer, this is the right answer. Yes. Ha.
Then what? How will you get the answer?
So then I think if you're looking at two places, right, you need to, and they're giving you two different answers. One is look a little more deeply. Say, for example, one of the websites is saying something like, in 1825, Donald Trump said. Does that sound? In 1825, Donald Trump said, no. If it says something like William Shakespeare in his TED Talk said, these are all signs that it's not probably very accurate information. Then it's always a good idea to go to a grown-up and ask them, can you tell me some places which are accurate, where you know that the information will be right? Okay? So that's really important. So, okay, so I wrote this book, How to Reach Mars and Other Impossible Things. And I want you to know, I'm not a scientist, okay? The last time I studied science, I studied physics. I was in 12th standard and I struggled through it, okay? But I still had to research about how India and how ISRO launched the mission to Mars, or Mangalyaan, okay? At the end, okay? Promise. At the end, we can ask questions. So, all right. So, what kind of questions do you think I, as a writer, might have asked? What are the kind of questions? If I want to write a story about the Mars mission and about Mangalyaan, what are the kind of stories someone would ask? Two. Give me any one. Is there Netflix on Mars? Okay. Any other kind of questions? Any other kind of questions when you're writing a book on Mars? Which planet should I go to? Yes. Are there aliens on Mars? Okay. All right. Yes. Is Chandrayaan 3 launched, landed, and mission completed? Or is that the question you want to ask?
Excuse me.
Okay, yes.
Can I reach with an auto to Mars?
Can you reach with an auto to Mars? Okay. Any other kinds of questions? Is there data on Mars? We have a question right at the back.
Right at the back. We'll take the...
Okay. Is there service on the moon? Like
How hot
mobile
it
service?
will be?
How hot will it be on Mars? Okay.
Is it possible to live on Mars?
Is it possible to live on Mars? Okay. Oh, there's a question next to her as well. Okay, okay. If you all shout, no one can hear.
How fast can we go to Mars?
Where is this question coming? Ah, sorry. Yes. All right. Did he ask the question?
One second.
What?
How fast can you go?
One.
How far? I don't want to ask.
Okay. Doesn't want to ask. Yes.
What would be the living conditions on Mars?
What are the living conditions on Mars? Okay. There's someone with a question here. Oh, right here, behind. Okay.
Does deserts have water?
Okay. All right. Okay. One other question here.
Are we aliens and
Are-
are there people already on Mars?
What a great question. Okay. Well, to the people on Mars, we probably are. Okay. Any other questions? Ah.
Why aren't there trees and people on Mars?
Wow. Okay. Lot of questions. Yes. One over here. Yes.
Are there any creatures on Earth which come from another planet and are aliens?
Okay. Now I'm going to be looking at all of you
Ma'am.
very suspiciously now. Okay. Okay.
Are aliens bad or good on Mars?
Okay, are aliens bad or good? So, when I started writing this book, your questions, I have to say, are much better than the questions that I had. Okay, so full marks to all of you for asking Much better questions.
Just a small request, if we can ask questions only when we have been recognized by the speaker, and if we can stand, that way our volunteers can get you with a mic. Just a small request that you stand and raise your hand. Only when we're recognized by the speaker, if we can raise our questions. Thank you.
All right. So these are all great questions about Mars. And I have also wondered a lot if there are aliens, not just on Mars, but intelligent life form anywhere else out there in the universe. But when I started writing this book, so how many of you here have heard of Mangalyaan or the Mars Orbiter mission? It happened about 10, 11 years ago. You've heard of it? Okay, anyone else? All right, few hands going up. So very quickly, I will tell you what it was. Basically, ISRO launched a satellite or a space probe, and it went and orbited around the planet Mars, okay, to collect data, photographs, information, and send it back to Earth, right? So, of course, my first question was, why are we so interested in Mars? What's so great about Mars that, we want to send, and not just ISRO, right? NASA, China, Russia, a lot of countries have sent space probes to Mars. So why do you think we're also interested in Mars? Why are humans interested in this planet maybe more than others? Anyone else? Anyone know? Yes, we have. I'm going to.
Because we don't know what is there on Mars.
Okay, because we don't know what's there on Mars.
Mars is also closer to us, so it is easier to gather information from it.
Okay, that's a great answer. Okay, yes. Because Mars is similar to Earth. Okay. So there are so many reasons, right? And yes, maybe we want to go and set up a colony on Mars one day and live on Mars. Okay. Yes, we have a question over there.
To find interesting stones on Mars.
To find interesting stones. Okay, yes, to look for interesting Martian rocks. Okay. All right.
Actually,
Last question. Oh, yes.
actually at Mars there is lava.
There is lava. Okay, so there's lava rocks on Mars. Last question from there, and then the next one. Why are we so interested in Mars?
Because everyone is very curious what's in it.
What's there, right? Okay, so I think back very, very long ago, there was a famous scientist called Galileo. Has everyone here heard of Galileo? Galileo, yes. And he was the first person to observe Mars through his telescope. It's a little red dot, twinkling light that you can see in the sky. And humans have always been interested in it. Why is it red? Is there intelligent life form on Mars? Can we go live there one day? So, of course, my first question was, why are humans interested in Mars? And then I had to come down to this particular mission, right? What was cool about this mission? What was so interesting about this mission, Mangalyaan, that I should write an entire book about it and get a very talented illustrator called Rajiv Vaib to illustrate it? And why would a publisher want to publish it? So, a lot of interesting facts about this particular mission, all right? India was the only country to successfully put a satellite around the orbit of Mars on our very first go. Lots of other countries have tried and done it, maybe on the second time, third time, but we did it on our first go. And that's something we always like to feel good about, right? Okay, the other really amazing thing was we were way under budget. How many of you have budgets at home for your birthday? Can I have a PS4? No, you can have 10 rupees for your birthday gift. Yes? So there are budgets for everything, right? So even for the Mars Orbiter mission, there was a budget, and it was a really, really small budget. It was not this big, fantastic, amazing budget. So it was done on a very, very shoestring budget. And one thing that got everyone during the launch of the mission really interested was that there were so many women scientists who worked on this mission. And there's actually this one amazing photograph that went viral after the launch and the successful insertion, which was of all these women hugging each other and celebrating at ISRO. And, if you look at that photo, you might think, that's a scientist? Well, that looks like my aunt. That looks like my neighbor next door. And I don't think scientists look like this because they've all got jasmine in their hair, they're wearing saris, and, they look like your auntie next door, maybe. So I found that very interesting. So I had to ask what was cool about this mission, and then, of course, who worked on it. And I know sometimes when we look in the media, you will see this one person gets to give interviews, or a handful of people become really famous after something is a success. But working both on this book and on Topi Rockets from Tumba, especially with a mission like this, you realize how many people have to work together across kind of different cities and places to make it a success. And then you want to know how they did it, right? I mean, do you think it's easy to launch something into Martian orbit? Pardon? Yeah.
The woman called Kalpana Chawla, she was the first woman to go in the space.
Okay, all right. Yes, so lots of cool things happening in space from different parts of the world, right? So these were my 6 questions. How did they do it? When did it happen? And where did it all go down? So even to write a book, I need to ask myself 6 pretty big questions, all right? And I will look at where I looked for answers. So I'm pretty much like all of you. Yeah, my first, who was the person who said you can read books? So the first thing I did was to look at You Told. I looked for what books were already existing about the Mars Orbiter mission. And I don't know if it's available today in the book mart, but you should look at Minnie Vaid, who's a journalist, wrote this fantastic book called ISRO's Magnificent Women and Their Flying Machines. And I think she's probably till date the only person who's been able to get all the women scientists to sit down and talk to her about their lives, about their work. It is very difficult to get ISRO to give you permission to speak to scientists who are currently in service. Because I think they're all working on pretty important missions which are of government importance, national security, so they're not really allowed to talk to journalists, writers, and reporters very often. But Minnie Vaid managed to do it, and it's a fantastic book. She speaks to about 8 or 10 scientists, and she goes home, has chai and samosa with them, talks to their kids, talks to their parents, talks to their colleagues. It's a fantastic book. So if you can find Minnie Vaid's book, I cannot recommend it enough. So of course, that was the first book I read, and then I read a lot of other books as well, picture books, scientific research papers, a lot of which I didn't understand a lot of it. So, of course, so my first thing was to read as many books as I could. And then, yeah, I also look on YouTube, friends. I know sometimes your teachers and parents are like, no, that's not the right place to do research. But if you're sure that you're looking at verified good sources, it's fine. I saw so many fantastic interviews with the women scientists at ISRO done by CNN, BBC, done by Indian news channels, and they were all really, really informative. So, of course, I looked online. I even watched this movie called Mission Mangal. Yes, I don't think that is how the scientists at ISRO actually worked on the mission. There was no singing and dancing, but anyway, it was an interesting watch. So I did watch that. And then, of course, newspapers, magazine articles, all of those things, finding as much information as I could. Now, this gentleman in the middle, I did manage to speak to him. While I couldn't talk to scientists who are currently serving at ISRO, I did manage to interview and speak to many retired scientists who had all worked on the Mars mission. So I managed to get each of them to set aside an hour and a half, 2 hours of their time. And they were all great. There's no, you know how sometimes in your class your teachers will tell you there are no silly questions, you can ask whatever you like? All of them were like that. I could ask them any question that popped into my head about the science, so one question, this man is called Mr. P.J. Bhatt, and he worked on the Mars mission. So one question I had for him was, after you've, so for this particular mission, there are many ISRO centers around the country. Okay, yes. You need the mic.
Kalpana Chawla died because when she was coming back down from space, her spaceship exploded and she was burned to ashes.
Okay, right. That is true, very sad, and we will move on quickly from that bit of it at the end. So, PJ Bhatt, who worked on the Mars mission, I had this question for him. Basically, all the parts for a space probe put together at different venues across India. So there is a center in Ahmedabad, there's a center in Tumba, there is Bangalore ISRO, there's ISTRAC, multiple centers across the country. Each of these centers have a particular task to do. They are said that you're going to make this camera, you're going to make this spectrometer, and then they make these, they test it, and they all come to Bangalore where they're put together, integrated. Do we launch our rockets from Bangalore now? Where do we launch rockets from today? Who can tell me? Sriharikota, that's right. Is Sri Harikota in Bangalore? Where is Sri Harikota? Can anyone tell me? Not Chennai. Anyone want to tell me where Sri Harikota is? Andhra Pradesh. So I had this question for Mr. Bhatt. I said, these space probes are very expensive, they're very delicate, precision instruments. Are you just going to like put it in the back of someone's car and drive it to Sri Harikota? Like, how do you make sure it reaches Sri Harikota without getting damaged? And he told me one of the most interesting things, which he said that ISRO has actually created, tested, designed a special truck in which space probes go from ISRO or ISTRAC, wherever, and they are driven to Sri Harikota, and they are designed in such a way that the contents of the truck have minimum, impact from bad roads, because Bangalore has some pretty terrible roads, right? Can you imagine sending a rocket with all these potholes? And he said it's sent in this specially designed truck. And what I found even cooler was that there is a big special ceremony where it's flagged off, and every time it passes through a particular district, the chief of police of that district has to come and ceremoniously flag off the truck to move on. And it goes with like a full police entourage and things like that. And that fact, for example, made its way into the book. So I spoke to Mr. Bhatt, I spoke to Dr. Sita Somasundaram, some really fascinating people who all spent their time. And that was actually my favorite part of the research, to sit down and ask all my silly questions and have them answer them. Okay, so after doing all this, this is just a part of my notes and research, but I had about like 6 or 7 notebooks filled with lots of scribbles like this. And you can't really read any of it. I don't think even I can read my handwriting anymore after I'm done writing. But basically, I take all of these notes, everything I've got from, all my interviews and research, and that's my very bad drawing, by the way, of a geocentric orbit. It looks quite terrible. Yeah, can you see those concentric circles in one corner? You can't see it very clearly. So I have all of this, and then I feel like sitting and crying, because now I actually have to sit and write the story. The fun part is over, all the research, and I don't have anyone else left to talk to. And then you actually have to write the story. So in the book, there's a girl called Rabia who is very curious and has lots and lots of questions. And so really all the questions that I had, I just used Rabia as the vehicle to ask and move the story forward. So once you have all of this together, you have to sit. Is it possible to play this video? I don't know if it's just, is it embedded as a video or no? Okay. Well, this is an illustration of Rabia from the book, which Rajiv Ipe did. And then like her sitting, and she gets to doodle and draw, I had to sit and write and put all of it together and put this kind of a narrative arc down. This is the beginning, middle, end. How many of you write stories in schools with your English teacher? Yeah, and there are some rules that your teachers will give you, right? Even when you're grown up and you have to write books, you have to follow those same rules as well. Your story must have a beginning, a middle, an end. You have to have a main character. You have to have something that they want to find out, some struggle or problem that they're having, how will they overcome it, and all of that. So anyway, I finally managed to write a story, and then my work was over. And then it goes to Rajiv, who's the illustrator. And then Rajiv does this amazing magical thing which artists and illustrators can do. They start to imagine what this character looks like. So this is the final Rabia we went with over here. But we started off with a bunch of these kind of sketches. And this is a lot of fun, because then me and Rajiv will sit and we'll chat, and he'll say, how do you see her? What kind of hair does she have? How tall do you think she is? What kind of uniform does she wear? So we have lots of these conversations, and Rajiv keeps doing different character sketches. And then he'll do sketches for each page of the book. And then once we've all kind of in agreement on that, we then go on to, then the story goes into kind of edits and publishing. So now I think that's how I wrote this story. And I think you'll find that every author or illustrator has their own process and their own way of doing things which works kind of best for them. But that's how I wrote this story. So now I want to know, how much time do we have left? We have time. Okay, can we give out some sheets of paper to the kids? Yeah? All right. So we're going to hand out some sheets of paper and sketch pens and stuff like that. And do you all want to think of something you want to write about? And do you want to think of the 6 questions that you will ask if you had to write something about this? Or we can do it as a discussion. How do you want to do it? Huh? You want paper. Okay, so whoever wants paper, you can put your hands up and they will come and give you some paper and sketch pens. All right? And while that is happening, yes, what would you like to share? Oh, you want paper? Okay, so there you go. You can just, yes. Okay, so this is what we're going, okay, so we had one question, which is why is there an auto on the cover of the book? That's because the space probe they actually sent out into Martian orbit was the size of an auto, that's why. Okay, so once you get your sheets of paper, there is a stage invasion. No, it's okay. I mean, if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. All right. Do you all want to sit down? Because it'll get... You can go and ask that lady over there. Do you all want to kind of move down and so there's a little space for all of you to do your work? Okay? Okay, if you don't want to, then you can go and sit back with your parents. Okay, so no choosing colors. We're not drawing on. Okay, this is what you're going to do. I want all of you to think, okay, very quickly of something you want to write about. Okay? For me to give you something, or do you want to think of your own thing? Own thing. I will tell you. Okay. Of course you can. That's what you would like also. All right, so let's assume, okay, we don't have so much time left, so I'm quickly going to give the instructions, okay? And you can write, you can draw, however you like. I want all of you to think of something you are interested in writing about. Let's say, all right, what are the 6 questions? And you have to think of the 6 questions that you would ask if you were going to write a story about this. Okay, so we saw the 6 kinds of questions. How, what, where, when, who, why. Were those the 6 questions? I want you to think of what are the 6 questions you would ask if you were going to write about escape. Okay, you want to write about yourself? Okay, if you want to write about yourself, you can. My thing for you is, if you are escaping a one-eyed alien from Jupiter, you are, okay, right? Astronauts, you can write about what you like. Pardon? Okay, write about Mangalyaan. If you can't think of something to write about and you want a prompt, your prompt is you are escaping from a one-eyed alien on Jupiter. What are the 6 questions you will ask to write about this? I'm going to give you 5 minutes. So the 6 questions are who, where, why, when, how, what. So you have to think, what are the 6 questions that you will ask in this situation? Of course, you can draw, you can write, however you would like to creatively express yourselves. You can write the questions and then later think about what is. Okay, there's 5 minutes left. So, what is your question? So you can write about escaping from a one-eyed alien on Saturn. Yes, you can do that. I like that attitude. You can do that. You have to think, what are the 6 questions that you'll ask in this situation if you're going to write about it? Yeah, or if you're going to write a story about it, what are the 6 things you'll want to ask yourself when you're sitting down to write it? Yeah, write about whatever you like. That's also fine. Whatever floats your boat. So we only have like 5 minutes left. If someone is done, you can come and show it to me. Yes? Okay. And if you don't finish now, don't worry. You can take it home and think about it and write at home as well. But don't mistake this for homework. It's not homework. It's just for fun, okay? I'm not going to correct you on it. So you can write whatever you like. Anything also you can write. Of course you can. Yeah? If you finished your drawing and you want to come and show it, please do. I would love to see that. Okay, there's 1 minute to go. So we're going to have to make space for the next session. But keep in mind that as much as the grown-ups in your life might not like asking you questions, it is your job as a child to question everything and to demand answers. Yes? Please remember that. ChatGPT, use with caution. Okay, so I'm going to say bye to everyone. Thank you so much for attending the session. And thank you for all your questions and answers as well. Bye.